Get your hoodrat hands off the wheel before I break them. Officer Dawson ripped Alexis Ward's door open, metal shrieking as he dragged her onto the gravel shoulder. Riker shoved her forward, his palm crushing the back of her neck as he muttered, "Women like you don't belong behind the wheel of cars like this." Dawson's taser buzzed inches from her, the electric snap louder than the passing traffic. "Don't look away," he hissed, gripping her chin. "I want you to remember who owns this road." When he cocked his fist to strike, Alexis's punch connected first, sharp and explosive, freezing every witness mid-breath. None of them knew they'd just swung on a Delta Force commander. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Commander Alexis Ward eased her SUV down the winding Georgia highway, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows through the pine trees. The drive from her mother's house usually brought her peace, a rare moment of quiet after years of classified missions. But today something felt off. In her rearview mirror, 2 patrol cars had been following her for the past 15 minutes, hanging back just enough to make their presence known. Her trained instincts kicked in as she kept a steady speed, hands relaxed but ready at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel. Without warning, the cruisers accelerated, engines roaring as they split apart, one cutting in front while the other boxed her in from behind. The lead car swerved sharply, forcing her to brake hard. Her SUV lurched to a stop on the shoulder, gravel crunching under the tires. "Keep your hands where we can see them." Deputy Dawson's voice boomed through a megaphone. He stepped out of the lead car, hand already on his holster. Deputy Riker approached from the other side, his face twisted in a sneer. Alexis lowered her window just 3 inches, enough to communicate but still keep a barrier. "Is there a problem, officers?" Dawson's face reddened as he stormed up to her window. "When a woman like you drives a car this nice, it's stolen. Get out before we remove you ourselves." Her jaw tightened, but her voice stayed even. "This is my vehicle. I have registration. And did I ask you to talk?" Dawson snapped. He grabbed the door handle and yanked it open. "Out. Now." Years of combat training screamed at her to react, but Alexis forced herself to move slowly, deliberately. She stepped out with her hands slightly raised, her military-honed senses cataloging every detail. Dawson's aggressive stance, Riker's angle behind her, the third officer stepping out from the backup car. "Face the vehicle." Legs spread, Dawson barked. He grabbed her shoulder and slammed her against the SUV. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs. "This is unnecessary," she said calmly. "I'm a military officer." Riker's knee drove into her ribs, cutting off her words. "Shut your mouth. You people always have excuses. The search was nothing but an excuse for brutality." Rough hands patted her down with deliberate force, lingering where they had no business being. Alexis's combat instincts flared with each violation, but she remained still, analyzing their positions, waiting. "Not so tough now, are you?" Dawson twisted her arm behind her back, pushing it up until pain shot through her shoulder. "Time to learn some respect." The third officer circled around, cracking his knuckles. "These types never learn respect until you teach it to them." Cold metal touched her neck, the taser. Dawson's breath was hot in her ear as he growled, "Maybe this will help the lesson stick." "You really don't want to do that," she said softly, the weight in her tone absolute. Dawson laughed. "Oh, yeah? Watch me." The taser crackled to life. In that instant, everything changed. Before the electrodes could touch her skin, Alexis moved, her elbow shot backward with crushing force, slamming into Dawson's solar plexus. As he doubled over, she pivoted, using his momentum to drive him face first into the SUV's hood. Riker lunged, reaching for his baton. Alexis dropped low, swept his legs with a practiced move, and sent him crashing to the asphalt. The third officer charged in, but she was already moving. She caught his wild punch, redirected his energy, and flipped him over her hip. He hit the ground hard, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Dawson staggered up, blood streaming from his nose. He clawed for his handgun, but Alexis was faster. 2 precise strikes, one to his wrist, another to his knee, left him howling on the ground. Riker managed to get behind her, trying to lock in a chokehold. Alexis flowed with the motion, caught his arm, and pitched her weight forward. He flew over her shoulder, landing on the hood with a heavy thud that left a deep dent in the metal. The third officer scrambled to his feet, fear shining in his eyes. He rushed her anyway, driven by desperation and wounded pride. Alexis met his charge with controlled violence, a combination of strikes that left him sprawled beside his colleagues. In less than 30 seconds, all 3 officers lay groaning on the pavement. None had landed a single effective blow. Alexis stood straight, breathing calm and measured as the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She held her ground, knowing the confrontation was far from over. The wail of sirens grew louder, but she remained perfectly still, every line of her posture radiating military bearing. Dawson tried to push himself up, spitting blood onto the asphalt. You're gonna regret this." "No," Alexis replied quietly, watching the first backup units appear on the horizon. "I'm not the one who's going to have regrets about today." The sun was sinking low, painting the sky in deep oranges and reds. The same Georgia highway that had promised a peaceful drive had become a battlefield, one that would soon draw more combatants. As the sirens closed in, Alexis stood ready, knowing this was only the beginning of a war she never wanted, but would not back down from. Lieutenant Briggs's cruiser screeched to a halt at the scene, headlights cutting through the growing dusk. The car door slammed hard enough to make younger officers flinch. Briggs emerged like a storm cloud, face purple with rage as he took in his injured men scattered across the asphalt. "What in God's name happened here?" he bellowed, his voice echoing off the pines. His eyes locked onto Alexis, who stood motionless, her bearing unchanged. Dawson staggered to his knees, still wheezing. She attacked us, Lieutenant. We were conducting a routine stop and—" "Routine?" Alexis's voice sliced through the air like steel. "You dragged me from my vehicle without cause, assaulted me, and tried to tase me." Briggs stormed toward her, hand white-knuckled around his baton. "You shut your mouth. I've got 3 good officers down because of you." "Good officers don't assault civilians," Alexis replied evenly. The baton came whistling through the air without warning. Most people would have been caught completely off guard, but Alexis had already seen the tension in his shoulders, the subtle shift of his weight. She stepped inside the arc of his swing, deflecting the baton with her forearm while staying just out of reach. Briggs snarled and launched into a series of wild strikes. Each attack met empty air as Alexis moved with practiced efficiency. She didn't attack. She simply refused to be where his baton tried to be. Her control was perfect. Her movements were precise. "Stand still!" Briggs roared, his face growing redder with each failed attempt. "Like your officers made me stand still?" Alexis's voice stayed calm as she redirected another blow. "While they kicked me, searched me, threatened me." A small crowd had gathered along the roadside. Cell phones were out, recording everything, their screens glowing in the deepening twilight. Briggs noticed, and his fury doubled. "Get those phones!" he barked. "Confiscate every device. This is an active crime scene." Backup officers moved toward the witnesses, but their eyes kept darting back to Alexis. They'd seen what she'd done to their colleagues. None of them wanted to be next. Briggs swung again, this time going for her knees. Alexis caught the baton mid-swing. For a heartbeat they were locked together, his raw rage against her disciplined strength. Then she twisted, using his own momentum to send him stumbling forward. The baton clattered to the pavement. She could have ended it right there. One strike to the back of his head, another to his kidney. He'd left himself wide open. Instead, she stepped back with her hands slightly raised. "That's enough, Lieutenant. We both know this stop was illegal." "Illegal?" Briggs straightened, trying to mask his heavy breathing. "The only thing illegal here is assaulting police officers. Take her down." "Now." The backup officers hesitated, glancing from their fallen colleagues to Alexis's calm stance. Fear warred with duty on their faces. "I won't resist," Alexis said clearly, keeping her hands visible. "But everyone here knows what really happened." 2 officers finally approached, their movements stiff with tension. They grabbed her arms roughly, yanking them behind her back. She didn't fight as the handcuffs clicked shut with unnecessary force. "You're under arrest for assault on law enforcement officers, resisting arrest, and attempted murder," Briggs spat, retrieving his baton. He leaned close, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You have no idea what you've just started." As they led her to a patrol car, Alexis watched Briggs directing his men. "Secure the scene. I want every phone, every camera, and someone find out what happened to our dashcam footage." The drive to the county station was tight with tension. Alexis sat silently in the back, observing through the cage partition. Up front, the officers kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, their nervousness obvious in every jerky motion. Processing at the station was dragged out deliberately. Every step was designed to maximize discomfort and humiliation. Through it all, Alexis maintained her composure and collected intel. She noted which officers avoided eye contact, which seemed uneasy, and which followed Briggs blindly. From booking, she had a clear view of Briggs in his office, orchestrating the cover-up. Officers cycled in and out, each leaving with specific tasks. One carried out dash cam hard drives. Another began typing what would almost certainly be a falsified report. Computer systems acting up, an officer announced loudly. Might lose some files tonight. Briggs's smile was thin and cold. These things happen. Technology's never reliable. They finally placed her in a holding cell away from other inmates. Concrete walls, metal bench, harsh fluorescent light. Alexis sat with perfect posture, finding focus in the discomfort. She'd survived worse conditions in far more hostile places. Heavy footsteps approached. Briggs appeared at the bars, smug and composed again. "No judge in this county will believe your story," he said, tapping his baton against the metal. "It'll be your word against 3 respected officers. And now look at you, just another violent offender in a cell." The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as 2 officers later led Alexis through booking again. Her muscles ached from the bench, but she kept her head high, her face impassive. "Processing for release hearing," one officer muttered, avoiding her eyes. The booking sergeant typed painfully slowly, each keystroke drawn out. The door slammed open. Lieutenant Briggs strode in with a thick folder under his arm, smiling like a wolf. "Going nowhere just yet," he said. "Got some paperwork to file first." He slapped the folder down, spreading out multiple charge sheets. "Assault on law enforcement, 3 counts, resisting arrest, and my personal favorite." He held up the last form with theatrical flair. "Attempted murder." "That's absurd," Alexis said quietly, noticing how several nearby officers shifted uncomfortably. "Is it?" Briggs's voice dripped with mock concern. "Officers, Dawson and Riker tell a different story. How you exploded into violence during a routine stop. How you used military-style attacks that could have killed them. They're both in the hospital, by the way, thanks to you." "I want my phone call," Alexis said. "And I'm requesting legal counsel." "Oh, certainly. We're all about proper procedure here." Briggs laughed harshly. "Unlike some people who think they can assault officers without consequences." The phone call was brief. Within an hour, Harper Lane walked into the station, heels clicking with purpose on the worn linoleum. Her sharp eyes absorbed everything: the officer's body language, the hastily changed duty rosters, the way Briggs hovered near the booking desk. "I'm representing Commander Ward," Harper announced clearly. "I need to see all charging documents and incident reports immediately." "We're still processing the paperwork," Briggs said, trying to stare her down. "These things take time." "Fascinating," Harper replied dryly, "especially since you've already leaked details to the press. I saw the morning segment about the dangerous veteran who attacked your officers." She turned to Alexis, speaking quietly but firmly. "This county has a history of protecting abusive officers. 8 similar incidents in the past year alone, all buried. But they've never tried to frame someone with your credentials. The dashcam footage will clear this up," Alexis said. Harper's smile turned grim. "Let me guess. Technical difficulties. Equipment malfunction." "A real shame," Briggs cut in smoothly. "But we have 3 officers' sworn statements about her unprovoked attack. 3 identical statements, I'm sure." Harper is hot back. "We'll be requesting federal oversight. The pattern of civil rights violations in this department is too clear to ignore." While Harper argued with Briggs about bail, Alexis kept watching. She tracked who handled evidence, who controlled the computers, who had access to security footage. Every detail was intel. Through the station windows, she saw news vans lining up. A reporter was already doing a live hit, gesturing toward the building. On a break room TV, a local anchor repeated the department's narrative. Sources described the suspect as mentally unstable, possibly suffering from PTSD. "They're pushing hard to control the narrative," Harper muttered, returning with release papers. "But they've made mistakes. The timing of the reports, the missing footage, the escalation of charges. It all shows coordination. We can use that." Bail took another 2 hours. Every signature was scrutinized, every form double-checked. Briggs watched the whole thing, his presence a calculated intimidation tactic. Finally, Alexis stepped out into the harsh Georgia sun. Cameras swung toward her, but Harper stepped in front. "No comments at this time. Direct all questions to my office." The drive home felt surreal. Every patrol car they passed seemed to slow so officers could stare. Harper's warning echoed in Alexis's mind. "They'll try to isolate you, make you feel watched. Don't let them—" Her mother's neighborhood buzzed with unusual activity. Neighbors clustered in small groups, conversations dying as Alexis drove past. A news van idled at the corner, the reporter perking up at the sight of her car. "I'll have my team start building the case," Harper said as they parked at Alexis's house. "We need to move fast before they destroy more evidence." "Are you sure you don't want to stay somewhere else?" "This is my home," Alexis replied simply. "I won't be driven out." Harper nodded. "Call me immediately if they try anything. And, Commander, be careful. Men like Briggs are most dangerous when they're scared." Alexis walked up her front path, fully aware of cameras watching and neighbors peeking through curtains. Her phone buzzed non-stop. News alerts, social media tags, messages from unknown numbers. The local station's homepage already had the headline, "Violent Veteran Attacks Officers During Traffic Stop." Inside, the house was quiet, untouched. The silence felt like a refuge after the chaos of jail. She closed the door, shutting out the noise, but her phone kept vibrating. Another alert. Police union demands maximum charges in officer assault case. Alexis set the phone face down on the counter. They wanted her overwhelmed, isolated, afraid. They didn't understand who they were dealing with. She'd faced worse odds in places with no cameras, no courts, no rules. Here, even in a corrupt system, there were still levers she could pull, tools she could use. She caught her own reflection in the kitchen window, the soldier she'd always been. No, she would not be intimidated, not by Briggs, not by his department, not by their media machine. They'd picked the wrong woman, and they were about to learn just how wrong. The morning sky hung low and heavy as Alexis backed out of her driveway. News vans had finally cleared out, but a patrol car sat 2 blocks down, half hidden behind a neighbor's oak tree. They weren't even trying to be subtle anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text from Harper. "Meet at office, a SAP federal contact agreed to hear us." Alexis checked her mirrors. Another cruiser had pulled out behind her 3 turns back. Their tailing was sloppy, a sign of desperation, not discipline. The concrete parking garage near Harper's downtown office rose ahead, gray and hulking in the flat morning light. Alexis chose the 3rd level, well away from the scattering of cars on the lower floors. As she pulled into a space, her trained instincts registered everything. The echo of boots on concrete, faint movement reflected in car windows, the deliberate positioning of vehicles near the exit ramp. She stepped out of her car, keys in hand. "I know you're here," she called, her voice carrying across the empty level. "Let's skip the theatrics." 4 deputies emerged from behind pillars and parked vehicles. She recognized Deputy Slate from booking, his young face tight with nerves. The others were older, harder, carrying batons and wearing the relaxed menace of men who thought this would be easy. "Lieutenant said you might cause problems," the largest deputy growled, tapping his baton against his thigh. "Said we should make sure you understand how things work around here. Before you meet those feds," another added, circling to her left. "Accidents happen in parking garages all the time, especially to people who don't know when to keep quiet." Alexis stayed still, analyzing distances and lines of attack. They were spread too far apart, more focused on blocking exits than coordinating strikes. Amateur mistakes that would cost them. "Last chance to walk away," she offered. "You don't want to be part of this. Slow." 8 rushed her first, young, eager, and scared. His baton swing was wide and telegraphed. Alexis stepped inside his reach, redirected his momentum, and let his own force slam him into a parked sedan. The door crumpled, Slate slid down it, gasping. The others attacked at once, but without real coordination. Alexis moved between the concrete pillars, using the structure as both shield and weapon. A baton cracked against concrete where her skull had been. She grabbed the weapon mid-swing, twisted it, and let its wielder's weight carry him into another charging deputy. They collided hard, swearing as they went down. Slate tried to stand. Alexis closed the distance, drove a precise strike into his knee, dropping him, then followed with a sharp chop to the nerve cluster in his shoulder. His arm went dead. He crumpled, conscious but unable to rejoin the fight. "Federal assault now," one deputy snarled, drawing a taser. You're just making it worse. The taser snapped to life. Alexis caught his wrist, pivoted, and directed the electrode square into his partner's chest. The man convulsed and hit the concrete. Before the taser wielder could recover, she slammed his arm against a pillar, the impact sending the device clattering away. The largest deputy bull rushed her, trying to crush her against a car. Alexis used his momentum, added to it with a hip throw, and sent him skidding across the rough surface. He spat blood, scrambled up, and charged again. This time she met him with his fallen partner's baton. 3 rapid strikes to key pressure points and his arm went numb. He collapsed, clutching a useless limb. The last deputy backed away, fumbling for his radio. Alexis close. The distance in 2 steps, trapped his hand before he could key the mic, and locked his wrist until pain forced him to his knees. "Stay down," she ordered, applying just enough pressure to make her point clear. "Unless you want to tell the medics you dislocated your own shoulder." The garage echoed with groans and ragged breathing. Alexis took out her phone and calmly documented everything: the dropped weapons, the positions of the bodies, the dents in cars, the scuff marks on the ground. She sent the photos to Harper with a single line: "Attempted assault in parking garage. 4 deputies need cleanup." Slate tried to speak through clenched teeth. "You don't understand. He'll kill us if we don't stop you." "Then you should have thought harder about who you work for," Alexis replied, quickly checking each man for serious injuries. None were life-threatening. They wouldn't be swinging batons again anytime soon, but they'd live. Footsteps echoed from the lower level. Civilians, drawn by the noise. Someone's voice carried up. "There's fighting in the parking garage. Send police." Alexis gathered the dropped weapons into a clear cluster for the cameras. More evidence of an organized ambush. More proof of just how far the department was willing to go. The wail of sirens drifted closer as she walked calmly toward the exit ramp. The deputies stayed where they'd fallen, finally grasping the magnitude of their mistake. Their curses and pained groans followed her as she descended through the concrete levels. She moved steadily, unhurried, breathing controlled. The dim light gave way to gray morning as she stepped out onto the street. Sirens converged from multiple directions. This level would be swarming with first responders and more of Briggs's loyalists. But she'd accomplished what she needed. The attack was documented. The deputies were neutralized without permanent harm. And most importantly, they'd just proven to the world how far the department would go to silence her. The rising wind carried the sound of closer sirens as Alexis pulled out her phone, fingers steady as she texted Harper about her delayed arrival. The afternoon sun cast long bars of light through Harper's office windows as Alexis sat across from her desk. Photos and video stills from the parking garage were spread between them, every image a testament to the morning's violence. "They're spinning this faster than I expected," Harper said, tapping a fresh news printout. "Look at this. Unstable veteran attacks officers in parking structure. They're painting you as someone who seeks out confrontation." Alexis leaned forward, scanning the article. Her jaw tightened at the quotes from anonymous department sources calling her a threat to public safety. "They moved quickly," she said. "Briggs is smarter than he looks," Harper admitted, shuffling more papers. "He was in the DA's office for 2 hours this morning, right after the garage incident." "Let me guess," Alexis said. "They're expediting charges." Harper nodded grimly. "Marston's calling it a matter of public safety. They're trying to fast-track your prosecution before we can expose more of their corruption." Alexis stood and paced the carpet, moving past framed degrees and civic awards. "They're desperate. Those deputies this morning, Slate said Briggs would kill them if they failed. That matches what I'm hearing." Harper pulled another file. 3 complaints in the last year from officers saying they were forced to falsify reports. All dismissed. But the pattern's there. "We need to go higher," Alexis said, stopping at the window. Below, pedestrians walked past the building, oblivious to the rot inside their own police department. "Federal oversight. I have a contact at Justice, Daniel Cross. He does department-wide corruption cases." Harper picked up her phone. "He's been trying to get into this jurisdiction for months. Your case might be the opening he needs." "Make the call," Alexis said. "But once Briggs realizes we're reaching out to the feds, he'll retaliate. He already is." Harper pulled up an email. "Emergency meeting with his senior deputies an hour ago. Closed door, no minutes recorded. My source says he was ranting about containing you before you do more damage." One deputy suggested backing off. Harper's face darkened. Briggs threatened his family. Alexis absorbed it, her military training filtering everything into threat levels and contingencies. That's weakness. Real leaders don't have to terrorize their own. But wounded animals are dangerous. A knock interrupted them. Harper's assistant stepped in with more files. These just came from traffic court. Citations on MS Ward's vehicle, expired registration, improper equipment, missing plates. All fabricated, Harper said after a quick scan. They're building a paper trail, trying to paint you as a chronic offender, small-time intimidation, Alexis said. It's more than that. Harper laid the citations in a row. They're establishing a pattern. Each citation gives them an excuse to pull you over again. They're setting up future confrontations. Alexis studied the forms, noting how carefully they'd been crafted to look legitimate. They're learning, she said. This morning they tried brute force. Now it's bureaucracy as a weapon, which is why we need federal involvement now. Harper grabbed her phone again. If I reach Cross today, he might be here within 48 hours. That's 2 days for Briggs to escalate. I'll be ready, Alexis said. There's something else. Harper hesitated, then set down one last document. Briggs filed a motion to revoke your bail, claims you're a danger to his officers. Judge Whitman is reviewing it. Whitman, Alexis said. The one who golfs with Marston? Every Sunday. Harper's expression was grim. The system here is a closed loop. They protect each other, cover for each other. Breaking that loop won't be easy. It never is, Alexis answered. The drive home was tight with tension. Alexis checked her mirrors constantly, but this time the department kept its distance. As she pulled into her driveway, the setting sun painted her small home in deep orange and shadow. Citations were taped across her front door, multiple sheets flapping gently in the evening breeze. A reminder, we can reach you anywhere. Alexis pulled them down one by one, studying the careful language and the fake observations. Her street was quiet, almost too quiet. Somewhere out there, Briggs was planning his next move, pressuring more deputies, targeting more civilians, widening the circle of victims. What had started as a routine traffic stop had grown into something much larger. This wasn't just self-defense anymore. This was about exposing a system that had rotted from the inside and protecting a community that didn't yet realize how deep the corruption went. The air grew cooler as darkness crept in. Alexis stood motionless in her doorway, citations in hand, feeling the weight of the fight ahead. Dismantling a corrupt institution wouldn't be quick or easy, but she had faced worse odds, and won. The neon beer signs cast a sickly glow over the cracked asphalt outside Allie's bar as Alexis pulled in. The sun sank behind the low building, the sky turning purple and orange. She'd chosen this time carefully. Shift change, maximum number of off-duty officers. Ali's had been a cop bar for decades. The wooden sign above the door was weathered, letters nearly worn away. Alexis took a breath, centered herself, and pushed through the heavy door. The reaction was instant. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned, eyes narrowed. The place reeked of stale beer and hostility. At least 15 off-duty officers occupied bar stools and tables, and every one of them was now focused on her. Alexis walked with deliberate calm to the bar, feeling their stares on her back. The bartender, a heavy-set man going gray at the temples, approached reluctantly. "Water," she said. He set a glass down without a word and retreated, to the far end, where a knot of officers huddled and whispered. Alexis didn't turn her head. She didn't need to. The mirror behind the bar showed everything. At a corner table, Deputy Riker sat with 4 other officers, face flushed with alcohol. His voice carried easily across the now quiet room. "Told Briggs not to worry," Riker bragged. "Judge Whitman's got his back. Been that way since they were rookies." One of his buddies darted a nervous glance toward Alexis's reflection. Riker's grin widened, volume rising. "What's she gonna do, huh? Dashcam footage is gone. Briggs took care of it himself, stayed late to wipe everything. No evidence means her word versus ours, and we all know how that goes in Whitman's court." Alexis took a slow sip of water, memorizing every detail. The mirror showed 3 officers near the pool table beginning to drift closer to the door, cutting off her exit. Their movements were sloppy. They'd had too much to drink. She set the glass down and turned toward Riker's table. The bar fell even quieter. Tension crackled in the air. Her footsteps echoed on the wooden floor as she closed the distance. "That footage showed everything, didn't it?" she asked calmly. "That's why Briggs was so eager to destroy it. Riker's face twisted. "You've got some nerve walking in here." "Just confirming facts," Alexis said. "Like how Judge Whitman takes bribes to dismiss cases against corrupt officers." A drunk from the pool table grabbed her shoulder. "Time for you to leave." Alexis didn't move. "Take your hand off me." "Or what?" A second officer slurred, coming in close, whiskey heavy on his breath. "You're outnumbered here." "Last warning," Alexis said quietly. The third officer lunged for her arm. Alexis shifted, letting his own weight carry him off balance. He crashed into a table, glasses shattering across the floor. The first officer swung a wild punch. She blocked it easily and turned his momentum into a spin that slammed him into the second man. They stumbled, swearing. One of them grabbed a chair and swung it like a Alexis stepped into his reach, and the chair smashed against the bar instead. A quick strike to his solar plexus sent him to the floor, gasping. The remaining two came at her together, coordinated enough despite their drunkenness. Alexis moved with fluid efficiency, every motion economical. A swing missed her head by inches, leaving a dent in the wall. She answered with a sharp elbow that dropped the attacker to his knees. The last man backed away, fear suddenly cutting through the alcohol haze. Behind her, chairs scraped as more officers stood, but none moved to help. They'd seen what had happened to the first three. "The footage," Alexis said, turning back to Riker. "Briggs deleted it personally." Riker's face had gone pale. The swagger was gone. "You're crazy walking in here. Answer the question." "Yeah," he spat. He wiped everything. Security footage, too. Spent 2 hours making sure nothing survived. "Happy now?" "Extremely." Alexis looked around. Several officers now had their phones out, recording. "Perfect. More evidence for Harper." "Anyone else want to say anything about Judge Whitman's special relationship with the department?" she asked. Silence. The three officers she'd put down still groaned on the floor. The bartender had vanished, no doubt calling for on-duty backup. "Then we're done," Alexis said. She walked toward the exit, staying aware of every body in the room. No one tried to stop her. They watched with a mix of anger and fear as she reached the door. The night air was cool on her skin. Stars pricked the darkening sky. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, backup finally answering the bartender's call. Too late. She already had what tea she needed. Alexis took out her phone, composing a message to Harper about Briggs personally destroying evidence, and about Whitman. Another piece of the puzzle exposed. The bar door banged open behind her. "This isn't over!" someone shouted, voice ragged with pain and rage. She didn't bother to turn. Their threats were empty noises now, symptoms of a system starting to crack. The real enemy wasn't a handful of drunk officers in a bar, it was the machine that protected them. She slid into her car and watched in the rear view as more off-duty cops spilled outside, looking shaken and lost. Their illusion of invincibility had splintered along with that chair. The engine rumbled to life. Alexis pulled away, already thinking ahead. The footage was gone, but now she had witnesses admitting to its destruction. It wasn't perfect, but Harper could work with it. The sirens grew louder behind her as she merged onto the road, leaving a bar full of broken furniture and bruised egos, and the first real cracks in the department's wall of silence. The next morning, the road ahead was nearly empty as Alexis drove toward Harper's office. Sunlight stretched long across the asphalt, her phone mounted on the dash displaying a neatly organized summary of everything that had happened at Ali's. Those drunken confessions about Briggs and Judge Whitman would blow the case open. A sudden flash of white and blue in her rear view caught her attention. A patrol SUV loomed behind her, riding too close. Alexis checked her speed, exactly at the limit. The SUV closed the gap until its grille filled her mirror. She could clearly see the driver now, Officer Matthews, one of Briggs's most loyal act dogs. His partner, Reynolds, sat in the passenger seat, both their faces twisted with raw hatred. The patrol vehicle swerved into the oncoming lane, then roared up alongside her. Alexis held her speed, watching as Matthews jerked his wheel toward her. The first impact was a hard nudge, just enough to make her tires squeal. She reacted with textbook defensive driving, keeping control but making it look like she was struggling. "Come on," she murmured. "Show me why you're really here." As if on cue, Matthews slammed his SUV into her car with full force. Her vehicle shuddered, but she was ready. Her dash-mounted phone had already been recording. Every second would be on video. The road ahead curved sharply right, bordered by a steep ditch. Matthews accelerated, trying to shove her into the guardrail. Instead of resisting, Alexis feathered her brakes. The patrol SUV shot ahead, overcommitting to the move. "Amateur," she said under her breath, watching Matthews fight the wheel. His vehicle fishtailed, tires screaming. Reynolds grabbed the dashboard, panic clear. Alexis executed a perfect pit maneuver, a precision tap to the rear quarter panel of the SUV. The effect was immediate and brutal. Matthews overcorrected. The SUV spun, skidding across both lanes, hit the shoulder, and rolled once before crashing into the ditch. Steam hissed from the crumpled hood. Alexis pulled over and angled her car to block any easy approach or escape. Matthews kicked his door open, staggering out with his hand on his gun. "You're dead!" he screamed, voice trembling. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. "Stay where you are," Alexis called, holding up her still-recording phone. "Keep your hands visible." Reynolds climbed out on the passenger side, already reaching for his radio. "Unit 47, officer down." Alexis moved. 2 quick strikes put Matthews on the ground before he could clear his weapon. Reynolds backed away, fumbling the radio. "Shots fired! Shots!" She took him down in 3 steps, swept his legs, pinned him face down, and wrenched his arms behind him. "No shots fired," she said, voice calm. "Just like there was no reason for you to try and run me off the road." "Briggs will kill you for this," Matthews groaned. "Add that threat to the recording," Alexis said, checking them both for serious injuries. Finding none, she cuffed each of them to their SUV's front push bar, using their own handcuffs. The whole confrontation had taken less than 2 minutes. Alexis returned to her car and replayed the footage. Every frame was clear: the tail, the ramming, the forced spin-out, Matthews' threat. She made multiple backups and sent copies straight to Harper and to the federal tip line Cross had given her. Steam still poured from the SUV's mangled hood. Coolant leaked into the dirt. Both officers glared at her with a toxic mix of fear and hatred as she prepared to leave. "You know the difference between us?" she asked. "I could have killed you both, easily. Instead, you'll live long enough to face consequences." She held up her phone. "It's all recorded. Your careers are done. Briggs owns this county," Reynolds spat. "You've got nothing." "Look around," Alexis said. "Your unit's destroyed. You're cuffed to your own bumper. Your attack failed." "Still think he's winning?" Neither answered. Sirens began in the distance. Backup responding to the panicked radio call. Alexis slid into her car, checked the time. She'd still make her meeting with Harper, with even more evidence of the department's desperation. "Backup's coming," Matthews shouted weakly. "You won't get far." "I'm not running," Alexis replied, starting her engine. "I'll be at my lawyer's office, filing assault charges against both of you. Feel free to send more officers. We'll just add witness intimidation to the list." She pulled away at exactly the speed limit. In her mirror, the ruined SUV shrank, another plume of steam curling into the sky like a signal fire. Let them come, she thought. Every attack just proved her right. Her phone buzzed. Harper had already received the video and was drafting motions. The federal tip line responded too, requesting an immediate interview. Police sirens grew louder behind her as more units converged on Matthews and Reynolds. Alexis stayed calm, hands steady on the wheel. This wasn't about one stop, or one lieutenant, or a handful of bad deputies. This was a system so corrupt its officers would attempt murder in broad daylight, certain they'd be protected. Not this time. By the time Alexis reached Harper's office, sunbeams were cutting across the conference room table. Printouts, photos, and video stills from all the confrontations lay spread before them. "They're getting bolder," Harper said, studying stills from the SUV attack. "Attempted murder on an open road. Briggs must be desperate." Alexis pulled up the alley's bar footage on her laptop. "Listen to this again." Riker's drunken voice came through clearly, bragging about Whitman, about wiped dash cams, about Briggs personally erasing evidence. "That's the missing link," Harper said, making notes. "Proof the corruption goes beyond the department." A knock sounded. "That should be our federal contact," Harper said. Daniel Cross stepped in, suit crisp despite the Georgia heat, a thick folder under his arm. His expression radiated controlled anger. "Commander Ward," he said, extending a hand, "I've spent the morning reviewing what you sent. I apologize it took a murder attempt to force our hand." "Just call me Alexis," she said, searching his face for any sign of local loyalty. She saw none, only focus. "I've opened an official inquiry," Cross said, laying out his own stack of documents. "Your documentation is exceptional. Multiple angles, timestamps, clear chain of custody." He tapped photos of her initial bruises. "But the pattern is what's most troubling. This isn't random, it's systematic." Harper pulled up more files. "We've found similar cases going back 5 years, all involving Briggs or his people, all targeting black drivers, all with convenient technical failures whenever evidence was needed. Except this time," Alexis said, "they went after someone trained to fight back and to document everything." Cross nodded. "My team hit the station this morning. The panic was immediate. Several officers suddenly requested vacation. Others started shredding documents until we stopped them." "Briggs?" Harper asked. "Walked out the minute we flashed our badges," Cross said. "But not before we secured their servers." He opened his folder and spread out printed emails. "Your traffic stop wasn't random. They tracked your vehicle for days. Briggs personally chose the officers and timing." Alexis's jaw tightened. "Because I'm black and drive a nice car," she said. "Partly," Cross replied. "But also because they saw you visiting your mother. They assumed family in their jurisdiction made you vulnerable to pressure. They've used that tactic before, threatening relatives to silence complainants." "Not this time," Alexis said, voice quiet but absolute. Harper's phone buzzed. She read the message and frowned. "Briggs is already moving against the federal presence. Emergency press conference at 2. He's calling you a domestic terrorist. Says your combat training makes you a public threat. Classic projection," Cross muttered. "He's demanding we arrest you," Harper added, trying to flip the narrative. Cross shook his head. "Won't work. We have internal emails where he talks about provoking you into reacting on camera. He wanted violence, he just didn't expect you to win." They spent the next hour building their case for the preliminary hearing. Cross confirmed the federal investigation would supersede local charges, gutting Whitman's influence. Every new piece of evidence revealed deeper rot. Falsified reports, missing tapes, coordinated harassment of complainants. "The roadside attack this morning was sloppy," Cross said, replaying Matthew's crash. "They're unraveling. Mistakes are multiplying. Mistakes make them dangerous," Alexis said. "Briggs is the type to burn everything down before he hands over control." Harper's assistant poked her head in with more updates. "Multiple deputies have walked off the job. Others are calling the federal tip line, offering testimony about years of misconduct." "The thin blue line is cracking," Cross said. "When badges become liability, loyalty shifts fast." "He won't accept that," Harper warned. "His whole sense of self is built around power." "Then we make sure every attack backfires," Alexis said. "Every threat becomes evidence. Every move they make tightens the net." By late afternoon, their strategy was set. Harper would steer the court battles. Cross would expand the federal probe. Alexis would keep gathering intel and defending herself if necessary. "Stay sharp," Cross said as they wrapped up. "Briggs is watching every move you make." "Good," Alexis replied. "He can watch what real accountability looks like." They rode the elevator down. Through the glass lobby doors, Alexis saw it, an old Crown Vic with 2 silhouettes inside, parked at the corner like a cartoon stakeout. She straightened her jacket and checked that her phone camera was still rolling. Let them watch. Every minute they spent surveilling her was one more violation on the federal ledger, and one less they could use on someone without her training. The courtroom was full to bursting when Alexis walked in for the preliminary hearing. Wooden benches creaked under the weight of spectators. People lined the back wall. Reporters, activists, and everyday citizens who'd had their own run-ins with the department all packed into the room. Harper walked beside her. Cross sat at a separate table, representing federal interests. Across the aisle, Briggs and the department's attorney wore masks of forced confidence. Judge Marshall entered. Everyone rose. Unlike Whitman, who'd conveniently recused himself after his connections came to light, Marshall had a reputation for independence. Her expression gave nothing away as she glanced over the morning's motions. "We'll begin with the federal evidence," she said, nodding to Cross. He approached with a digital recorder and printed transcripts. "Your Honor, in investigating missing dash cam footage, we found backup audio from officers' body microphones. Policy requires those recordings be kept 90 days. They were hidden in a miscategorized archive." Briggs shifted in his seat. As Cross hooked the recorder into the court audio system, his attorney whispered urgently at his side. "The first clip," Cross said, comes from Deputy Dawson's mic, time-stamped at the start of Commander Ward's traffic stop. The room quieted as Dawson's voice boomed from the speakers. "Look at this one. Driving Daddy's car, I bet. These people always trying to show off what they ain't earned." Riker's voice followed. "Time to teach some respect. Been too long since we had a good one." The racial slurs that followed drew gasps from the spectators. The recording clearly captured their footsteps approaching, their aggressive tone, and crucially their talk of using force before they'd even spoken to Alexis. "Dawson, watch this. Gonna make her squirm. Riker, just don't leave marks where cameras can see. You know the drill." "Premeditation," Harper said, standing. "They planned excessive force before any interaction." The department's attorney jumped up. "Objection, Your Honor. These recordings could have been altered." "Overruled," Judge Marshall said sharply. "The Federal Forensics Lab has authenticated them." Cross played on. The audio captured the moment they dragged Alexis from her SUV. Thuds, strained breaths, their taunts, her calm warnings, the distinctive crack of the taser arming near her neck. Jurors flinched at some of the language. Even Marshall's granite expression flickered. "Prosecution charging documents cast Commander Ward as the aggressor," Harper said. "This shows the opposite. She was targeted, brutalized, and threatened." Briggs's face darkened to a dangerous shade. Cross presented more. Internal emails about targeting black drivers, testimony from officers who'd quit rather than bend reports, data patterns showing systematically missing evidence files whenever force complaints were filed. "Your Honor," the department's lawyer tried again. "This federal fishing expedition. These are standard investigative procedures," Marshall cut him off, "and what they reveal is deeply disturbing." Alexis watched Briggs. His mask of authority was cracking, the years of untouchable status slipping away in real time. "Based on this evidence," Marshall said finally, "I am dismissing the charges of assaulting officers and resisting arrest. Commander Ward's actions constitute clear self-defense against excessive force and civil rights violations." A wave of whispers washed through the courtroom. Briggs shot to his feet. "This is outrageous. She attacked my officers. We can't let these people—" "Lieutenant Briggs," Judge Marshall snapped, "control yourself or I will hold you in contempt, and your choice of words is telling." "Your Honor," Harper said, "given the clear civil rights violations, we move to dismiss all remaining charges as well." "So ordered," Marshall replied. "Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division for a broader investigation." The gallery erupted in murmurs. Alexis stayed composed. Inside, she felt the first real breath of relief since that night on the highway. Briggs stormed out, shoving aside cameras. His lawyer followed, already looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Commander," Judge Marshall said, turning to Alexis, "this court failed to protect you. On behalf of the system, you had every reason to doubt. I apologize for what you've endured." "Thank you, Your Honor," Alexis said quietly. Outside the courtroom, supporters and other victims crowded around. Cross joined them, his usual stern expression softened slightly. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Now that the charges are gone, people are flooding our lines with stories. We're going to dig deep." "Good," Alexis answered. "The whole structure needs sunlight." They pushed through the courthouse doors into the bright noon sun. For the first time since her arrest, the light felt clean instead of harsh. Not victory, not yet, but a turning of the tide. That evening, the sunset stretched long shadows across Alexis's driveway as she pulled in. For the first time in weeks, her shoulders dropped a fraction. Marshall's ruling had cut the legs out from under Briggs's local shield. Inside, she kicked off her shoes and poured a glass of water, hearing the judge's words in her head. The validation mattered, but what mattered more was what it meant for everyone else. Other victims, other families. Her phone buzzed. Her mother's name lit the screen. Alexis answered. Only it wasn't her mother's voice. It was Mrs. Taylor, the neighbor, breathless and afraid. "Alexis, they're here. 4 patrol cars. They going into your mama's house right now. The SS slipped from Alexis's hand, shattering on the tile. "What? Who's there?" "The sheriff's department," Mrs. Taylor cried. "Saying something about obstruction, evidence tampering. Your mama was just sitting on her porch. They're being so rough with her." Alexis was already grabbing her keys. "Call Harper's office. Tell them exactly what's happening. I'm on my way." She hadn't reached her car when her phone blew up with alerts. Texts, tags, headlines, every notification carried the same theme. Delta Force commander's violent past exposed, questions about Ward's mental stability. Her hands went cold. She opened the first article. Her service photo. Classified snippets twisted into poison. Missions framed as questionable. Dead teammates held up as evidence of her supposed instability. They quoted anonymous law enforcement sources describing her as highly trained, lethal, and mentally unstable from combat. They dragged the names of fallen teammates into it, implying their deaths had made her unhinged. Harper's name flashed on the caller ID. "They're crucifying you on every network," Harper said. "Briggs has friends in military intelligence or in somebody's office." "This leak came from High. They have my mother," Alexis said, voice iron hard. "4 patrol cars at her house. I know. I've got people on the way. But this is coordinated. They're trying to—" A thunderous pounding rattled Alexis's front door. She parted the blinds. Camera crews filled her lawn. News vans clogged the street. Microphones and boom mics. "Flashbulbs. They're here too," Alexis told Harper. "Do not open that door," Harper snapped. "Don't answer. Don't react. They want a meltdown on cam." "Era." The pounding intensified. Camera flashes stuttered through the glass. "Commander Ward," reporters shouted, "is it true you were discharged for excessive force? Did your combat history make you attack those officers? Are you under psychiatric care?" Alexis moved away from the windows, tactical mind already mapping entry points and weak spots. The house felt suddenly like a fixed position under siege. Her phone rang again. "Mrs. Taylor, they put her in handcuffs, Alexis," the older woman sobbed. "Your mama's crying, but they won't let me near. Sayin' she destroyed evidence. She ain't done nothin'." "Is she hurt?" Alexis demanded. They grabbed her arms so rough, she kept asking for her heart medicine, but they wouldn't let her get it. "Stay with her if they let you," Alexis said. "I'm sending my lawyer. Do not confront them directly." The pounding at Alexis's own door turned into a steady assault. Her phone vibrated non-stop with new headlines. "Decorated commander" or "dangerous vigilante." "Violence follows Ward, pattern of aggression." Sources: "Ward's unit suffered heavy losses under her command." She moved through the house, switching off lights, forcing the cameras outside to reflect mostly their own glare. The questions got harsher, sharper. "Did losing your men push you over the edge? Were the officers right to fear for their lives? Should someone with your training be allowed to walk free?" Harper's text came in. "Your mother's being processed at county." Briggs signed the warrant himself. "Working on bail." A second message followed. "Warning, they're painting you as unstable. They want a bad reaction. Don't give it to them." Alexis sat down in the dark of her living room and let the storm rage outside. Flashbulbs turned the curtains into a pulsing wall of white. Everything she had built, every sacrifice she had made, Briggs was turning it all into a weapon. Her service, her trauma, her dead teammates. The reporters hammered the same barbed questions, each one designed to cut. "Did you enjoy hurting those officers the way you enjoyed hurting enemy combatants? How many people died under your command? Are you a danger to the public?" She thought of her mother, in a holding cell, denied heart medicine. Of her teammates' memories being twisted into caricatures. Of every person this department had ever brutalized while the system looked away. The darkness around her grew still. The system would not stop. It would keep coming, keep hurting the people around her, keep twisting truth until nothing recognizable remained. Unless someone broke it. Unless she broke it. Camera flashes kept firing, lighting the room in harsh bursts through the curtains. Alexis barely noticed now. Her mind had shifted entirely into operational planning, identifying networks, pressure points, tactics. She had fought institutional evil before. She knew how to dismantle hostile structures, and she had never lost when the mission truly mattered. Sunlight sliced through her bedroom blinds the next morning. She hadn't slept. She hadn't tried. All night she'd sifted intel, financy, OWL records, timelines, old complaints, names, drawing connections, identifying choke points in Briggs's web. Her mother was still in custody, denied bail on blatantly fake charges. The media still camped outside, though the crowd was thinner, 2 news vans instead of 5. It didn't matter anymore. She wasn't playing for public optics now. She was planning an operation. Cold shower, protein bar, black coffee. Alexis packed her evidence into a secure briefcase, recordings, time-stamped screenshots, witness lists, and, most critically, financial statements she'd obtained through back channels. As she stepped outside, cameras surged closer. Questions flew. She gave them nothing, not even a glance. 20 minutes later, she walked into Harper's office. Harper and Cross were already there, watching a segment about her troubled military past. "They're really leaning into the unstable veteran narrative," Harper said, muting the TV. "Your mother's still being held without—" "I know where this goes," Alexis cut in, setting her briefcase down. "Briggs will escalate until someone dies. So we end this first." She opened the case and laid out documents in orderly rows. Financial records showing private prison corporations' profits spiking during special enforcement periods run by Briggs's department. Quotas targeting specific neighborhoods. Payments disguised as consulting fees. Cross picked up one set of records, eyebrows rising. "Where did you get this?" "I have contacts," Alexis said. "It's all authenticated." She tapped another file. 3 years of dashcam footage Briggs swore was accidentally deleted. Archived on private servers, it shows a clear pattern of targeted harassment and excessive force. Harper leaned closer. "This is exactly what we needed. But it's dangerous. These companies have serious reach." "They also have serious paper trails," Alexis replied. "Names, dates, amounts. Enough for multiple federal investigations." She turned to Cross. "That's where you come in." Cross nodded slowly. "This kind of direct coordination between law enforcement and private prisons, this is systemic corruption." He looked up. "If we pull this thread, they won't just try to smear you, they'll try to eliminate you." "They already are," Alexis said. "Now we show the world why. Drop this on them. Show everybody how much money they make off false arrests." Harper spread out more documents. "We'll need witness protection. Some of these officers will flip if we offer immunity." "Already working on it," Cross said. "We've got a task force on standby, but timing is critical. If Briggs realizes we have this, he'll burn everything he can and run. That's why we trigger him first," Alexis said. She slid out one last file, surveillance photos of Briggs meeting privately with prison executives. "He's already paranoid. When these hit the right reporters, he'll assume someone close to him flipped. He'll lash out." Harper frowned. "He'll also get more dangerous. You're threatening his entire power base." "Good," Alexis said. "Let him feel cornered. Let him gather everyone dirty enough to go down with him." She placed a folded map on the table and opened it. An abandoned impound lot at the edge of town. It's secluded, no civilians, limited exits, and surveillance shows his deputies use it for off-the-books meetings. It's the perfect place for an accident or an ambush. Cross's face hardened. "You're talking about using yourself as bait. I'm talking about ending this," Alexis replied. "Your team can't move until you have undeniable evidence of criminal conspiracy. I'll get it for you." They worked through scenarios the rest of the afternoon. Harper coordinated with trusted reporters, readying stories about the money trail. Cross set up surveillance and reaction teams. Alexis walked them through tactical angles, lines of fire, ambush points, fallback routes. By dusk, their sources confirmed it. Movement inside Briggs's camp. Deputies being quietly summoned. Vehicles redirected toward the impound lot. Briggs believing he was closing in on her, when in reality, he was walking into her operation. As night settled, Alexis parked a block away from the lot. From her vantage point, she could see silhouettes moving within the chain-link fence. Headlights flicked on and off as more vehicles arrived. A text from Cross appeared on her screen. "Surveillance in position. Still time to wait for our approach." Alexis didn't reply. She stepped out into the cool dark, boots soundless on cracked pavement. Inside the fence, shapes moved among stacked cars and containers. She heard the metallic clink of weapons being checked. Murmured voices, forced bravado. Briggs was there, and he'd brought his most compromised men. Inside the dimly lit impound lot, Alexis walked straight toward the center where patchy floodlights cast hard pools of light and long shadows. Briggs stood in the middle of a loose circle of nearly a dozen deputies. Old sedans, busted trucks, and rusted containers surrounded them like a junkyard coliseum. "You just couldn't leave it alone, could you?" Briggs called, his voice echoing off metal. "Had to keep pushing until you forced my hand." Alexis scanned the terrain, stacked containers forming narrow corridors, abandoned vehicles providing cover, chains and tools left scattered across oil-stained concrete. Every piece of